Okay, next we're going to be focusing on very important exercise which is frequently neglected. So this may be one that can turn out to be one of your favorites. So we're going to be focusing on the internal and external hip rotators. And if people do any stretching, they're frequently doing front and back, side to side motions, but rarely do they do rotational movements around the hip. So including this internal and external rotation of the hip can get to muscles that are neglected otherwise. So sometimes if you're feeling tight around the hips, if you do this in addition to other exercises that you might be doing, you might finally get to that little thing that just wasn't being gotten to. So to demonstrate, lie down, and first we're going to be starting. You can see my feet are kind of standing straight up, and first we're going to turn outward, so we're going to laterally rotate or externally rotate the hip. And when I externally rotate my hip, my feet go down laterally. And then when I internally rotate the hip, the feet go down towards the midline. So the first exercise is going out. So if you look at your feet, they're straight up. What you're going to do is keep the legs straight. You can think of the legs as one unit going from the hip all the way to the foot. And what I usually do is I tell people to put their hands on the front of their pelvis, just to give them a reminder that the movement that you're doing here is coming from the hip. You're turning out from the hip. Even though you might see the foot move, the movement is coming from the hip. So place your hands on top of your pelvis here, and you take your deep breath like you did before, and then as you exhale, you turn your leg out at the hip as far as you can go, and you hold that for as long as the exhalation lasts. So I'll demonstrate that. So we're going to do that 10 times, turning laterally, and then we'll go in the opposite direction 10 times internally, medially. So to start, we begin, again, your foot is straight up, but we're going to be going internal. So we start here, take a deep breath in, and turning from your hip, internally rotate your hip so that your foot goes towards the midline of the body. And then you bring it up, and you'll do that 10 times. Now typically it's easier for people to go laterally than it is to go medially, because they're usually tighter in the back here, so that naturally allows your foot to flop out to the side. In fact, many times people, when they lie down, their feet tend to fall out to the side. As I said before, when you're lying down and you automatically, your feet kind of fall out to the side, that indicates that the lateral rotators are tight. So in order to stretch or lengthen the lateral rotators, you're going to do the opposite motion. So this involves engaging the internal rotators. Turn your foot in, which in turn lengthens or stretches the lateral or external rotators.